Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another reading vlog. On my February TBR, I had two books that I thought could possibly be 5-star reads. So today we're going to be reading them together and seeing if my predictions are correct. The first book that I'm going to be reading, which I did already start, is The Winners by Fredrik Backman. This is the third and final book in the Beartown trilogy. This is a literary fiction series following a small town in Sweden where everything kind of revolves around hockey. So how the hockey team is doing directly correlates with how the town itself is doing. There's also a rivalry with another town that I feel like we expanded upon a lot in the second book, and we are following a lot of characters in both of these towns, and we're seeing how the things that happen in the town affect their day-to-day life, but for some people we're seeing how their day-to-day life affects the rest of the town. My reading experience with this series so far has kind of been a roller coaster ride, if I'm gonna be honest. The first book, Beartown, I rated 5 stars, and the second book, I still don't know what I want to rate it. It's called Us Against You, but I just did not enjoy it as much. I think I'm gonna think about my rating after I finish this one, because regarding my rating on these last two books, I kind of want to compare and contrast my thoughts. But anyway, so far I am on page 97, and I feel like nothing has really happened so far. Like, you would think I should be bored reading this, but I'm not. Like, weirdly enough, I'm on the edge of my seat. This final book in the series, though, is quite larger than the other two. 670 pages-ish, and I feel like I have not read a big book like that in quite some time. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this goes. I'm on page 262 of The Winners by Fredrik Backman, and I think at this point I can say that I'm enjoying this more than Us Against You, which is honestly surprising, especially because this one's quite a bit longer than Us Against You, but it almost felt like the second one was a little redundant. Not that there weren't important things that happened for our characters, but I feel like it's kind of hard to do a series with literary fiction. I haven't read any other literary fiction series, so I have nothing to relate this to. The Winners definitely talks about politics in a less obvious way than they did in Us Against You. It's more similar to Beartown in that retrospect, because obviously there's politics going on, but I almost like not knowing the inner workings of everything and why the politicians make the decisions that they do, because I genuinely just don't care about the politicians. I want to see how the decisions being made throughout the town are affecting the characters that I actually do care about. He also started The Winners off in a similar way to Beartown, where there's this foreshadowing element where you know something big is going to happen to somebody in the town, but you don't know how exactly it's going to happen or who it's going to happen to, so that makes me want to keep reading. And I feel like normally that wouldn't work, but it works in these books because we're just following so many characters. As for pacing, there weirdly enough hasn't been a ton that's happened, even though I am quite a chunk of the way through. So far, it's just been a few things here and there, like he's laying down the groundwork for something big that's going to end up happening. So at this point, I'm just trying to be patient, even though I am waiting for more stuff to happen, specifically because so many things have been alluded to. I'm currently on page 583 of The Winner, so I have a little bit less than 100 pages to go until I finish it. And tell me why yesterday. I think I was on like page 350 or something like that when I woke up. I was telling myself, oh yeah, like I can definitely finish this book today.
girl. Like, I was gaslighting myself into the oblivion, especially because reading half of this book is 330 pages, which is like a length of a normal book that I would read. And it's very rare that I read a book in one day. I mean, it has happened before, but it has to be like a very special occasion. I feel like I read these books a little bit slower just because I like to like take my time and really like digest everything, just because the writing is just so, it's not writing comparable to when I read a romance book and I can turn off my brain. I did, however, do quite a bit of reading last night and quite a bit earlier today, so that's why I have gotten to where I'm at. I have like teared up at a few moments, but I felt like I was just expecting more emotionally. I mean, I still have 100 pages to go, so who knows what's going to happen in these last pages. I guess, well, I kind of do, because he did start off the book talking about it. I'm going to sit here though and finish the rest with you guys on camera, because I have a feeling it might evoke some emotions from me, or that I'll have some more thoughts that I want to share with you guys as I'm finishing it.
I have like 23, 24 pages left, and what just happened, obviously I knew it was going to happen. I just wasn't expecting it to be like that. Does make a lot of sense for this character. It's really sad. I feel like I just wasn't ready for this to happen, let alone like how it happened, I guess. Let's dive back in since I only have a little bit left. It's been a few days since I finished The Winners, and unfortunately, she is not a 5-star. The best way I can describe this book, in my opinion, is overwhelming, yet underwhelming at the same time. Let's start off with the things that were a little overwhelming. It starts off with a hook, which already makes you want to keep reading, but that in itself made me anxious. And then as I kept reading and started to connect the dots on a plot point that was coming more towards the end, that made my anxiety like an 11 out of 10, which in and of itself was a little bit overwhelming because I was on edge for the majority of this book, especially when there wasn't a ton happening for me feeling that way to really lead to a ton of payoff. We also dive into so many different characters' perspectives in these books, and I feel like in the first book it was done in a way that wasn't too overwhelming, but in this one, for some reason, it was just kind of a lot. We were on a lot of different side quests, and all those different characters' plot points didn't really feel cohesive with each other because it didn't feel like this whole book in general was like grounded in anything. In my eyes, there was no general plot point to this book. I feel like whenever you follow a lot of different characters, that's something I'm expecting. Like, yeah, they can go on their different side quests, but at the end of the day, those side quests do come together, and there was like a feeling of togetherness, but all the plot points weren't really tied to like one specific thing besides just them all being in Beartown, which honestly made it feel unsatisfying to me. And I think one of those reasons that everything felt less cohesive is because this is a big book. There was obviously a want to tell a lot of different sides of the story in this book, but in my opinion, it just felt way too long and it didn't feel concise. When I think of the things that felt underwhelming, you know, I really adored his writing in Beartown, but the last two books, in my opinion, just kind of felt different. They fell flat for me. Beartown was so perfectly polished, in my opinion, not just the storytelling, but the way in which he wrote it and the format that he wrote it in. It was just so genius and I loved it so much, and that's what made me excited to go into the rest of the series. But whenever I think about Us Against You and The Winners, they just don't compare to Beartown at all for me. It was just missing that structure. And also I have to say, for such a long book, this is 670 something pages, the ending was so weirdly abrupt. The characters in this series and how everything that happens within the town affects them is what made me keep coming back, because he so effortlessly makes you connect with them. They're just so authentic and they genuinely feel real, and you get to see so many different sides to them. And obviously I liked the characters and connected with them because I did cry at the end of this book, but there wasn't really a lot of character development. It felt like things were just kind of happening to them, and with the characters that were growing and changing, it didn't feel fully explored. But then again, because I love the characters so much, there were certain plot points
points that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. There was a subplot of romance that was really sweet. You got to see a bunch of characters be reunited, and it made me feel kind of nostalgic. And it made me realize how much I really love the found family in this series. It has that small town element of connection where everybody knows everybody and people help each other out, and they just really want what's best for the town. At the end of the day, that's everybody's common goal, and I feel like everybody's willing to come together to make that a priority. A huge element to these books is the town rivalry between Head and Beartown, and this was the first time that we got to read a book with a perspective from a family and Head, and I really enjoyed that. I wish we would have honestly gotten that in Us Against You, because getting to see both sides of the story makes you have a deeper understanding of the characters and their motivations and just everything that's going on within the towns and how real these things that are happening are for these people. At the end of the day, the conclusion that I've come to is that I believe that Beartown should have just been a standalone, and I do think that I liked The Winners more than Us Against You, but both of the second books just kind of felt like fan service for the people that really enjoyed Beartown and just wanted to have more time with these characters, but I feel like what we got out of it just wasn't fulfilling enough for me to feel like it's necessary to continue reading the series after Beartown. And that's honestly crazy for me to say because I rated Beartown 5 stars. I loved it. It was one of my top books of last year, and yet these last two books in the series just didn't do it for me. But as we all know, reading is subjective. There are so many people who rated Beartown the lowest out of the entire series, so many people who love the entire series and rated all the books 5 stars. I think that if you really did enjoy Beartown, give the second and third books a shot, because this is obviously just my opinion and there's obviously a chance that you can enjoy the rest of the series too. In saying all of that, I have genuinely no idea what my rating is gonna be. I think maybe a 3.75 is the highest I'm willing to go, but I'm still not stuck on exactly where my rating is gonna be placed. Us Against You is definitely gonna be rated below that. I've been waiting until I finish the series to rate the last two books. But if you guys get anything from this long rant that I had about The Winners, please do read Beartown. It is an absolutely exceptional book. Anyways, let's go ahead and start reading the next book for this reading vlog.
As you guys could already tell from the clips before this one, I am currently reading the book that you guys chose for me to read in the month of February, which is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am currently 120 pages in, and I really do believe that this book could be a 5 stars for me, just because I've seen so many people who have different tastes rate this book so highly. I've also seen a lot of reactions to the end of this book. I know that it's going to be sad, and in saying that, I am trying to mentally prepare myself to be distraught over these characters in this storyline, and I honestly think that's why I've been putting it off. So I'm glad you guys ended up choosing this one and are helping me not delay the inevitable even further. Anyways, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid is about a woman named Joan. It's set in the 1970s and 80s, and she's one of the first women to have the chance to become an astronaut during that time. So you're really just following her throughout the experience of becoming an astronaut, as well as her everyday life throughout that experience. And let me just say, this book started off so chaotic, and it's starting that way made me so completely confused and honestly frustrated. There were tons of things just thrown at us. People's names, what they do, all of this random astronaut terminology that I just completely didn't understand, which along with the actual happenings of the moment was just incredibly overwhelming for me. But now that I'm a little bit more removed from that part of the story, I feel like the way she formatted it is kind of genius and it makes a lot of sense. And you really do just have to trust the process with this one. At the beginning, again, like I already said, you're thrown into the deep end with everything going on, and then she goes back in time and she starts to tell you about these characters and their stories, and you start to understand what exactly they do and the experiences they've had and all the characters' relationships between one another, and you get to connect with them after what happened. And I feel like getting to know the characters deeper after something big like that happening at the very beginning of the book makes learning more about that thing that happened hit even harder. It's also no secret that I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. She has written some of my favorite books of all time, and she really just writes in a way where you can tell she's not just passionate about writing itself, but also exactly what she's writing about. She takes her time and fully dives into the topics and the characters and all the different relationships, and I feel like every time I finish one of her books, no matter what it's about, I am just left feeling so inspired because she's just such a passionate and thoughtful person, and it really shows in her writing. Where I'm currently at, I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm liking the writing, I'm liking the storytelling, I'm liking our main character Joan, and I actually don't have any other plans for the rest of my day. So I was thinking about maybe binging the rest of this today. I might even end up staying up late, who knows. I just have this like deep sense to sit down and binge a book today, and I feel like this is a perfect book to do that with. It's also only like 320 pages. I would look to see exactly how many, but I've burned myself too many times in the past, and I love going to look at how many pages are at the end of the book and then reading the last few lines and spoiling things for myself. So I'm not gonna do that with this one like I've done in the past with so many other books. But that means I have about 200 pages left, which is definitely doable. I do need to like lock in and read for quite a while though if I do want to end up finishing this. Who knows, we might be reading into the night. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get back into reading.
I have gotten so sucked into this book that I just have completely forgotten to update you guys throughout the day with any thoughts that I have. I feel like I have not spent a whole day reading in a really long time. Mind you, I didn't read this whole book in an entire day. I had like 100 pages that I had read before today, but it's rare that I read this much in one day ever, and it's just been such a nice day just to fully immerse myself in this book, and it's safe to say that I'm really loving it. I wanted to finish it with you guys on camera too, just because I have a feeling that what comes next is gonna hit me real hard. I'm on page 301 and I have about 30 pages left, and it is currently 11:40 p.m. and I feel like I have so much to say about this book. The first being, I love our main character Joan. There was a page that I dog-eared early on, and I feel like this perfectly describes how I feel about Joan, and it's actually a conversation that she ends up having with her love interest. She's talking about being an astronomer and how much she loves space and how excited she is to become a hopeful astronaut someday. And the person she's talking to said that she was smiling while she was talking. And she said, I love that. I love when people love what they do. And that's exactly how I would describe Joan. People like Joan do everything with their full heart into it. She loves everything that she does. And I feel like she doesn't even really know this about herself, won't even let herself think that she is that way because she's just that kind of person, but she's just such a lover. She has such a big heart. She cares for people so deeply. And she also really takes the time to understand people who might be a little bit more rough around the edges or difficult to understand. She has a lot of patience with them. And she's such a hard worker, and she just has this zest and this passion for everything that she's doing. And it has been something just so enthralling to watch. Like, I feel so proud of this fictional character for getting to do the things that she's wanted to do for so long. I feel like two of the biggest things that Joan is going through in this book directly mirror each other. Obviously, she's going through becoming an astronaut, and she's discovering all of these beautiful things and going through all these trainings and just falling even more in love with what she knew she would want to do someday. And then you have this other side to her where she's going through a lot of self-discovery, and she's trying to figure out who she is and what she wants. And you also see her as a very big people pleaser at the beginning of the book. She has a kind of a difficult relationship with someone who is very narcissistic. They're a very self-centered and male-centered individual as well, and Joan just is always there for them. She's always the peacemaker in things that are going on, even if she doesn't agree with what they're saying or the things that they're doing or believes that what they're doing is right. But her entire life, she's been so blinded by her love for that person that they've taken advantage of her in so many different ways. And I feel like that's also another part of her storyline that is a parallel with those other things as well. She started off as a people pleaser, and now she's standing up for herself and standing up for the things that she believes that are right. Getting to know our side characters as well has been a really enjoyable experience. I really have gotten the ability to connect with all of them. There is such a deep sense of found family in this book, and there's something about having found family in a book that's just going to do it for me every single time. I really do enjoy these characters. I I like how they're all decently complex and they have their own things going on. And a lot of them have had their own side arcs as well that we've gotten to watch as Joan's story has progressed. One of the main things that I'm loving about all these characters is that they are flawed in one way or another. And whenever you make a character like that, all these different little personality quirks and things to them, I start to see people I know in these characters, in these little intricacies that all these characters have. And I genuinely love reading about complex characters. I feel like the more I read, I feel like just reading about a perfect character is kind of boring at this point. Like, I've been there, I've done that. And also, the more complex characters are, the more that I can relate to them, or I can relate to experiences that they've had. And I really love that. I love books whenever they feel real, just because those are the books that I end up loving and connecting with the most. Now, this book is kind of dual timeline, but it's almost told in a backwards way, and I feel like because of that, it's honestly making me sick to my stomach at this point, because now that I know these characters and I've connected with them so much and I know what's gonna happen, I genuinely just don't know how I'm gonna be able to read the end of this book. But that is quite literally what I'm about to do with you now, so we'll have to see how this goes.
I feel like I need to hold my breath. I'm so nervous. I think this is stressing me out. I finished Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was a time. The love story here is a true slow burn, and I feel like you're slowly falling in love with the two of them being together as they're falling in love with each other. Their dialogue is just so incredibly easygoing, and there's so many moments before they each know their feelings for each other where they just have that crush, and their interactions then are just so heartwarming and endearing and precious, just because everybody's had a crush before, so everyone can relate to that. And I feel like one of the biggest topics that was talked about in this book was misogyny, especially for the time in the 70s and 80s. It was a way more misogynistic era, surprisingly. I know, because misogyny is not dead, unfortunately, but it was way more misogynistic back then than it is now, especially in a place like NASA, where they are just now inviting female astronauts to be a part of NASA. But I like how the topic of misogyny in general is just so spoken about with so many different layers, and you're not just seeing one side of the story or just Joan, our main character's perspective of misogyny. And I like how it's more of a complex conversation. There's more than one reason to act and react to things, and there's more than one reason why they choose to act that way. There are some women who think that you just need to be like the guys, laugh at their jokes, just brush it off, take it as no big deal, or else you're not going to be treated as one of the guys. You're not going to be able to be as included or get further in your career. Sorry, that was my fridge. But then there's other women like Joan who say that if you just laugh at the jokes and brush them off, the other women who say, don't talk to me like that, don't say that, the men are gonna be like, oh, stop being such a prude, don't take it so seriously, it was just a joke. But it's crazy that if even just one of them laughs at a joke, it changes the way all of those men see the rest of the women. And Joan basically says that she has no desire to be like them. She is going to get to where she wants to be by being the strong woman that she is. I also love the idea of your chosen family can sometimes be even closer to you or more important than your blood family. There were so many different family dynamics that we experienced, and I just really related to Joan with everything that she went through with her sister. I feel like everybody can relate to having somebody narcissistic in their life in one way or another, and it was almost a healing experience, me reading that as Joan was healing from her people-pleasing ways. I also don't really think I spoke about this yet, but I really enjoyed Joan's relationship with her niece Frances. She was just always that reliable figure that Frances really needed in her life, and not with a weird pressure on it, but Frances also was a reliable character in Joan's life as well. They both brought each other such immense joy and happiness and peace, and were just what each other needed. They were such family to each other just from the start. Once I got more towards the end, it was a really hard read, just knowing what was coming next. I did cry at the end. I feel like I didn't cry as much as I wanted to because one, I was expecting to cry, and two, because I know what ends up happening to these characters, I had like a wall up where I really wasn't allowing myself to fully feel because I knew what was coming. And I think that's why I didn't absolutely bawl my eyes out. I did like the conclusion of this book. Do I think it's a 5-star? I'm erring on the side of yes. I do think this is a 5-star. If not, it's a 4.75, which is very close. The writing was great. The storyline was great. The characters were great. It had everything that I'm looking for in a 5-star. So it seems at least one of my predictions for this video was correct. I really did enjoy this, and this book is as good as everybody says that it is. And I also think since the romance is so prevalent in this book, if you're looking to get into more literary fiction work, you could definitely start here, especially if you are a big romance reader. My battery is dying and I don't have any ones that are charged. So we're gonna do this outro very quickly. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below the airplane or the rocket emoji or something so I know who the real ones are who watched until the very end. You can follow my socials. They're always linked down below. I love you guys so, so much. Hope you're all having an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in my next video very, very soon. Bye, guys.
Welcome back to my channel.
I love that sound. It sounds so good when I'm trying to film. Hold up, guys. I'm ordering a pizza.
Melly? Oh, you may come in.
My throat sounds weird.
Okay.
Why do I have one hair that sticks out like that?
Bright lights in the big city.
Peace. That was a close one.